Hi, I'm Tara, founder and data-driven designer at Olive Box. Through creative direction, one-week intensives, website design, and custom design days, I help mission-driven service providers like you elevate your path forward with sensible and authentic branding that's heavily rooted in calculated creativity. I'm often asked, what is the secret to building an enduring brand? And especially, why is it so important to invest in more than just a logo? That's what I'm here to share with you today. Welcome to the Service Provider's Assessment for Building a Sensible Brand. It's a comprehensive 3-part assessment to help you build a brand that strategically aligns who you are with how you serve others, gives you greater confidence to show up, and guides you to grow your community as well as profits. Here are the 3 parts that we'll be covering in this guide, as well as timestamps on your screen if you'd like to skip around. 1, clarity, the strategic foundation. 2, personality, the branded visual and verbal elements. 3, connection, the touch points that guide strong relationships. Given my analytical nature, I refer to each of these parts as inputs. We'll be covering the questions to ask yourself to generate the ideal output, a sensible brand. Let's dig in. First up, clarity. This input is all about setting a strong foundation for everything in your brand going forward. This is where we define what you do, who you do it for, how, and why. I often find when business owners are struggling with building an enduring brand, this is the part that they have skipped over. Or the answers to these questions are simply something that are just living in the back of their minds. I challenge you as you're going through this assessment to write down your responses. That way, you're ensuring that they are solid and not changing. This is the foundation for your brand after all. To help get you through this comprehensive step, I've broken it down into 3 different parts: the why, how, and who. Starting with the why, I like to go way back to when you first started your venture and think about why you started this business. Then fast forward to today and think through the reasons why you are still doing this. What is motivating you beyond just the profits to show up for your business every day? The next thing to cover are your personal values. And that might seem a little bit out of place, seeing how we're talking about branding your business. However, I found that as service-based entrepreneurs, you are inherently linked to your business. So your personal values are going to show up. It's not the same as a product-based business who can put something in a box and ship it out without ever personally interacting with the client. The key here is to translate your personal values into how you think that they should show up into your brand. A recent example with a client is they have a personal value of being kind and welcoming. The way that they've translated that to their business is making sure that they are being inclusive. In this step, we are just laying the foundation and identifying that value. Then how this becomes the foundation is when we are in the personality phases and the connection phases, we had that to reference back to. So things like when we were sourcing her photography, we made sure that the photos weren't just featuring one type of body. Another thing to ask yourself is, what do you want your brand to be known for? Pivoting into the how section of the clarity input, start with asking yourself a little bit of the cliche question: what do you want your venture to look like in 1 year, 3 years, or even go out to 5 years? But we want to take that a step further and talk about how you will achieve those goals. Think through how you want to serve your people and show up for them, as well as the logistics for your business, like what are your actual offerings? As you're thinking through your offerings, you'll probably think about a lot of other service providers that have very similar offerings. And this is where you'll want to start identifying your standouts. What makes you unique and different from your competition? And wrapping up this section with, how do you want your clients to feel as they're interacting with you and your business? Which transitions us nicely into the last bucket of questions, the who section. Think through who you are on a mission to serve. This is where you'll go into outlining your ideal client. Some people refer to it as an avatar, your client persona. Probably have an idea of this person in your mind, but I want you to make sure that you're going beyond just the demographics, so their age, location, income level, and write down on paper there's psychographic information as well. So think through their day-to-day and think through what brings them joy and excitement. What are some of their challenges or frustrations from a physical standpoint, mental standpoint, or spiritual standpoint? And then connect that all back to your brand and how you can help them overcome those challenges. What do you provide that can help your ideal person? Think through how your customer is feeling before they interact with your brand. What are they frustrated by? And then how do you want them to feel after they've hired you to perform your services? A common example for Olive Fox clients are before they're frustrated with their lack of consistency and overwhelmed with everything that goes into a brand. Then after working with me, they have the confidence to show up for their business. Now that you've documented the answers to these questions, it's time to move on to the second input, personality. These are the branded verbal and visual elements that you probably think of when you think about going through a branding process. Defining these will help you create consistency as well as set you apart from your competition. Diving into the verbal and visual identity questions, make sure that you've defined 3 adjectives that you want your brand to be known for. Think through, how does your brand act? Is it a little bit more casual, or are you very buttoned up? Specifically with your verbal identity, do you have a tagline or a strapline that you're using? These are 2 different things. Your strapline helps clarify what you do. So as you'll notice in my current logo, underneath Olive Fox, it says brand strategy and design. That's my strapline. But then I also have a tagline, rooted in calculated creativity, that I infuse through other elements of my brand. Another checkpoint for your verbal identity is making sure that you're using consistent language and tone of voice. Shifting gears into your visual identity. How is your logo? Is it in alignment with those items that we defined in clarity? Or as you've evolved in your business, maybe now you're a little bit more elevated and high end, and your logo is still reflecting more of a casual brand. Another logo touch point is, do you have enough variation in your logo to offer flexibility to use your logo across different mediums? Do you have a primary and secondary layout so that depending on the space and size of wherever you're trying to use it, it's fitting in nicely? Do you also have a few submarks that are nice references back to your brand and can be used as things like your favicon on your website, where a primary logo just simply wouldn't work? Moving beyond the logo assets, do a check-in with your defined color palette as well as your typography hierarchy. Are these in alignment with what you defined in the clarity section of how you want your customers or potential clients to feel? For example, if you want your people to feel calm and trusting, if you're using a palette of all neon colors, is that really in alignment? Another tidbit that's not on the PDF, make sure that both your color palette and your typography have enough depth to them. You want your defined hierarchy for your typography to have enough variation so that you can create a little bit more of an interest. Same with your color palette. You don't want to use all pastels. You'll need a few darker or contrast items in order to create more interest. But don't get too crazy as you're adding in that depth. You want to make sure that you're limiting your color palette as well as your font choices. Another question to ask yourself is, beyond your color palette and your logos, do you have any other recognizable brand assets? These are items like custom patterns or hand-drawn icons that can enhance your visual identity. Closely related to your visual identity is your brand imagery. Do an assessment of your current brand imagery. Are your headshots and brand images in alignment with how you want people to feel when interacting with your brand? And are they in alignment with your visual and verbal identity? In your current images, are you in an urban environment with a cool brick background, and yet your brand has a lot of plant and nature imagery? If these are out of alignment, then it might be time to book a photo shoot with a local brand photographer. In addition to your headshots and custom brand imagery, are you using stock photography that enhances the feel of your brand? Is the editing style of this stock photography in alignment with your other images that you're using? Now that we've covered all of the elements of personality, it's time to move on to the last input, connection. Think of this as the implementation phase. This is where we'll expand on the visual and verbal elements to build strong relationships. I've used where your people are with your interaction in your brand to break this into 2 separate sections. First is the marketing. This is where your people are getting to know you and getting more familiar with your brand. Social media is often a focus of this part. Think through your social media accounts. Do the platforms you're on make sense for your business? Are all of the accounts giving a consistent feel? Are the profile images aligned? Are you using a logo across the board, or are you using brand imagery? It doesn't necessarily need to be the exact same photo, but I would recommend using a set of photos from the same shoot. Does your brand have consistent messaging? Are you referring back to your content pillars to make sure that you're portraying what you want your brand to reflect across these profiles? Then, once somebody moves from your social media onto your website to learn more about you, are you continuing that same consistent brand? When somebody's interested in learning more and they've moved from your social media profile onto your website, are you delivering a consistent experience there as well? While social media tends to be a little bit more casual, you don't want to have your customers have whiplash if they land on an ultra serious site after coming from a very casual profile. Once you've taken stock of your verbal tone, then shift gears into the visual elements. Have you successfully implemented your visual branding across your website? Check on things like your favicon so that when somebody has 1,000,000 browser tabs open, they get a nice little reference back to you. Are your colors and typography the same that are outlined in your brand manual? While you're checking page by page on your website, think through the natural flow that your person has. Are you guiding them on a meaningful journey throughout, or is it just a little bit choppy with unclear call to actions? As a service provider, you probably want to make sure that people are being guided towards learning more about your offerings or your service page, and then ultimately the big call to action throughout your whole website is that they're contacting you or applying to work with you. Think through any other places that your potential clients have been interacting with your business. Does it make sense for you to have branded business cards to hand out at conferences? Are you taking advantage of your email signature real estate? Are all of your PDFs like welcome guides, studio guides, any lead magnets aligned to your brand? Once your person has warmed up to you and your brand through your marketing efforts, they'll likely want to take the next step and work with you. Think through your client experience. To create a highly tailored experience that's reflective of your brand, what I recommend you doing is writing down the exact journey that they take from when they first reach out to you all the way until offboarding. When that person has read through your welcome guide but still has a few questions and sends you an email, do you have a swipe file you can refer to so that you're making sure you have consistent responses and messaging across your emails? Once you've received an application, do you get on a discovery call to make sure that you're the right fit? Do you have a structure to these calls so that you're delivering a consistent client experience? Are you leveraging a project management system to help keep everything on the back end organized? If so, are you making sure that you're using your branded elements throughout this to create an enhanced brand experience? Have you taken the time to infuse your visual and verbal identity into any software you're using while you're performing your services? When you're done performing your services, do you have an offboarding workflow that kicks off? Make sure you have requesting testimonials included in your workflow. This will help strengthen your connection input in the marketing phase because you'll have that social proof and quotes to use. As a part of your client offboarding, do you incorporate a client gift? I think it's such a nice touch for service providers in this digital age to send a handwritten thank you card. But in order to do that, you need to make sure that somewhere else in your client interaction workflow, you're collecting their mailing address. This is where most people stop when they're documenting their client experience. But I want you to go further. Think through 3 months, 6 months, a year after you've wrapped up your project. Do you have any touch points or way that you're reaching back out to past clients? Are you creating a group within your newsletter platform so that you can easily reach back out to all of your past clients? Are you taking a page from corporate America and sending them a holiday card? Or does it make sense for your brand for you to have a recurring calendar reminder to prompt you to reach out to past clients one-on-one? Infusing your brand into all of these interaction touch points, from those that are just getting warmed up to you through marketing, to your current clients, to past clients, are what will set a strong relationship that will guide your enduring brand forward. I hope that you've enjoyed this guide and you found it helpful to really build a sensible brand through everything we covered today from the ground up. There's plenty more we could have talked about, but hopefully this gives you a good starting point. Cheers to your path forward.